Have you studied like 'cause it sounds like you know a lot about like child development, like how certain things in your life can affect you.
Oh, when I did go to college, I studied psychology.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, so that's part of I'm not gonna say no, because you don't really. It's all science. It's all like still like experimental. Like in the world of psychology, they're still figuring out things, but there's theories that that explain certain behaviors. But yeah, I studied psychology when I went to college, so that's why I'm kind of very interested in just like mental health and just developmental behavior.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's the most interesting shit ever.
I think it's one of the most important sciences.
Yeah.
And that's it's another thing about school too. We don't learn about psychology until college. You have to choose to learn about this. I don't know why it's not one of the sciences that we learn in high school. We learn about living environment or biology, whatever you call it, depending on where you at. Chemistry and physics, right? But not social sciences, whether it's sociology or psychology. And that doesn't make sense because we all have a brain. It's still something that we need to develop and learn about. So I don't know why we're not teaching it. But I did see something that they are putting like Psych 101 in high schools or something. I don't know. I don't know how many schools are doing it, but it's really important. I feel like if I learned Psych 101 in high school, I probably would have been able to like evaluate certain things that I would have had to do in a therapy session myself. You know what I mean? Depending on the type of person.
1000%. I was taking this online course, child life development, and just by taking that course, I felt like I put myself through therapy because I started realizing like, oh, this is why I can't control my emotions. And then when you realize that, that's the only time you're able to deal with it and fix it.
In real time too.
Yeah.
And it gives the kid the idea, okay, this is why I'm acting like this. And they understand themselves and there's a reason behind it instead of, oh, I'm just acting out, I'm just being myself. No, it's because of this reason. I can look in the mirror and go, how can I change this?
Yes.
How do I, change this effect?
But psychology is fairly new though. Like that's one of the newer sciences. Like it started in like officially in the late 1800s or early 1900s. Whereas everything else was like years and years and years of research, like thousands of years of research. Whereas this one, it's fairly new. So I guess that's another reason. It's not all the way proven yet. Whereas all the other sciences have like proven experiments, while in the social sciences it's theories. Because
that's all it could really ever be.
It can only ever be theory. I think so because everybody's different.
There's no concrete evidence to, and the thing about child psychology is like, I don't know how to say this. Like, for example, me and you can have the exact same childhood, and I can see the way you have developed and be like, oh, that he is angry all the time because his dad was an angry person, right? And that's why he's so emotional. But your brother might be completely different, right?
Because we don't have the same exact childhood. That's the thing. We don't. Like if we're something that's different, something as precise as being born a different day can change the course of your entire life. You know what I mean? We have different friends. That's another thing. We eat different foods. That's another thing. There's so many factors into how a person becomes who they are that it's just so hard to say put on paper like this is why I'm like this. So that's probably another reason why it's not one of those sciences that's still taken seriously because there's no concrete evidence. Again, it's all theory. But yeah, not.
And that's one of the reasons why it's hard to study too. This is one of the most interesting. But
it's still important to study though.
It is, but it's hard to like. Okay, you know how you do like the scientific method where you have a hypothesis and you prove it. It's hard because like one of the most interesting things I learned is like during the Great Depression, as you said, like being born on a different day. Kids who were born like say 10 years before the Great Depression and as it started to hit they were 18, what they found was that these people became extremely independent, extremely hardworking, and extremely self-motivated because at a small age, or at a young age of 16, 17, 18, they realized the importance of their family. And it's like, oh, I'm 16, but I have to work to provide for the family. Right? So all young kids were working and helping provide for that family. And that built their self-confidence. Think about being a 17-year-old and knowing that, yo, I am an intricate part of the family surviving. That gives you a certain type of You know what I mean? A different type of confidence to walk around with. And the kids who were around 8, 9, or 10 that grew up in that same thing were lazy as fuck because all their older siblings was taking care of them. And number one, they didn't have a lot of people there with them because everyone was out working. So that's crazy. Like just being born a little bit different.
Yeah.
It could change your entire perspective on life.
And then say you are born on the same day. Say you did grow up in the same household. What if you're light skinned and your brother's dark skinned? You have a different life now. Just because people treat you differently. So it's just hard to quantify. So but I love it though, just because of that though. It's just it's so many nuances when it comes to it.
Ever told on a nigga? No. Ever squeezed the trigger? Yeah. Ever set a nigga up? No. Ever helped a brother out when he was down on his luck?